Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am so happy to have a conversation with singer and musician Stevie Howie. Thank you so much for being on my show. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
Very much for having me. I promise I am even more excited to be here.
Um, so let's get started. So I love all of your music. Where do you find inspiration for your songs?
First of all, thank you very much. I pour everything into this music stuff. So even if you just said that you heard one snippet of a song and you loved it, that would mean everything to me. Uh, as for inspiration, um, I I guess I grew up listening to um, lots of different genres at different points in my life. Like uh, when I was at my most heartbroken is when I got really into country. When I was full of like tween angst, I really got into pop rock. Uh, when I was in college, I listened to a lot of rap and hip hop. So I draw on that all the time. But when it comes to actually making music, I try to be as free from direct inspiration as possible. So, uh, if I hear a song and I'm like, like okay, let's say for example, I hear an Ariana Grande, a new Ariana Grande single, and it has this kind of beat to it, this like this kind of Billie Jean type of thing to it. Then I would say, okay, that makes me think of Billie Jean. I love this. I want to make something that sounds like that. So what I would immediately do is stop listening to the Ariana Grande song, not listen to Billie Jean at all, and try to go in free of any like direct inspiration because I want to make sure uh, that I'm copying as little as possible. And then I just get into the studio and I try to recreate whatever vibe I had in my brain. So I would say I try to do lots of listening passively, and then when it comes to actually making music, I just try to shut the world out and make something new.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to be. I don't want to make something that has already been made, and we are all creatures of habit. So most of the time, when I'm making some sound, it's because I want to evoke a feeling that like has been influenced pretty directly by one or a couple of songs, and those songs already exist. So the more I listen to those things, the more similar I'm going to sound to them, and the world already has those songs. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I make a copycat version.
Yeah. 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 So were you surprised by the incredible response to your song Nameless?
Uh, yes, I remember when I finished the first verse. Uh, it was I was a little shocked at how like intense and kind of violent the lyrics were. Um, I I think the very first in the first like 10 seconds of the song, I say something about like uh, I talk about bullets and choking people and guns. It's a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
I was pretty sure right when I had um, that I sat back and I was like, this one might need to just be a song for me. Like I don't think anyone else is gonna get it. Uh, and I decided to kind of bite the bullet and trust that I don't know. There was at some point you decide as an artist that like I think we're we're all kind of thinking the same thing as humans, and like that crazy thought that you think no one else has had. Uh, Probably everyone has had it, and
Yeah.
they're just. It's like the person that asks the dumb question is just brave enough to ask the question that everyone's thinking. So,
Yeah.
so I was very surprised, and still surprised to this day when people don't make me feel like I'm crazy or like they don't ostracize me for saying rather intense or violent things, but they
Yeah.
say hey, it's a normal human emotion, and I've felt this way too.
Yeah. Yeah. So why do you think that it resonates with people?
Huh. Well, um, I think it is. It's really sad that there's a couple of experiences that all too many people have that we can't talk about. Um, and then a few people start talking, and we all realize, well, we were all thinking this. Why wasn't anyone talking about it? And uh, a little trigger warning: this is about the topic of sexual assault. Um, and I think this is such a hush hush thing. Like the fact that I feel very uncomfortable just saying the word. Um, and depending on like where you distribute like this conversation, for example, like you can get stuff taken down by even just mentioning those two words,
Yeah.
sexual. Um, and I think we're all kind of too many of us have either like had a personal experience with sexual assault or someone we know has had a personal experience with sexual assault. Like we're closer to it than the average person. I think is closer to it than certainly than I thought. Um, and I think you just have to. Someone has to start talking about it and trust that like they're not going to be left out in the dust. And then we all start talking about it, and then it's not a taboo subject anymore. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers the question very well. Uh,
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
yeah, I the only thing that I would hope to do is like demystify the whole subject and just get people to feel comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I do not believe that ignorance is bliss almost ever. I'm in you can ask anyone that knows me personally. Um, I prefer to confront the ugly truth earlier, and I feel like it almost always minimizes pain in the long term. So this was one of those things, those songs that uh, caused a couple of awkward conversations for me. But like, if it was like a 4 out of 10 on the scale of hardness and tragedy that it caused me. And I'm talking about a subject that maybe has caused countless of countless numbers of women and men like 9 out of 10 levels of like pain in their life. So uh, if all I have to do is just like speak up about it, and it's not even that hard for me,
Yeah.
I can do that. If
Yeah.
I can write. I don't know, someone writing a biography about like the Holocaust maybe is really difficult to do, uh, but that pales in comparison to even one of the people that actually existed during the time
Yeah.
of the Holocaust. So if they can go through that pain, I can talk about it. You know.
Yeah. 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 So what motivates you even on days when you aren't really feeling it?
Um. Usually, honestly, it's just like intellectualizing um, stuff is kind of what motivates me. Lately, it's been understanding the nature of motivation. So I know that uh, over like on average, I'm gonna have the same level of motivation. So I can expect that for every 10 days, I'll have like 3 super motivated days, 3 really unmotivated days, and the rest of the days I'll just feel right in the middle. So my level of motivation doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Now, where it does matter is if I feel like I'm really in a slump in my life, then maybe I need to take those days that I'm motivated and really kick myself in the butt. I really need that motivation, but I want to try to need motivation as little as possible, um, and realize that uh, my life can look the exact same regardless of how motivated I am day in and day out. Like
Yeah.
you wake up, some days you feel beautiful and some days you feel like an ugly troll. Like I do. Like some days I look in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, I'm on top of the world. I look good, and then other days I'll be like, oh, I feel terrible. I haven't, like my best days are a lot better than my worst days. And if someone from the outside looked in, they might not notice a difference at all. So uh, when I'm really unmotivated, I remind myself that it's all in my head.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So is there a song of yours that is your favorite?
Um, there is a song of mine that is my favorite that has not been released, and I've been sitting on it for a couple of months uh, because I've had this verse that's really, really, um, really dark, and it's a little bit too important of a song and too honest of a song for
Yeah.
me to rush it out. So songs like that, sometimes they just live with me for a year, and then I'm in the right headspace to finish them. And I actually just finished the chorus like 2 days ago. Uh, and it's so special that I really want to be careful with how I put it out. So it might not even be the next song. It might be the one after that, or even the one after that. Um, but as for the songs that I currently have out, I've always had a very special place in my heart for the second original song I ever put out. It's called Stalker.
Mhm.
Uh, and that song has always had, I don't want to say favorite because I don't see it as like a single file line. I see that there's, you know, I'm trying to build out a universe, and there's just different solar systems, and sometimes I like to visit the solar systems uh, a lot, and those I would say are my favorite. But then some that I really like, I don't like to visit very often because they're kind of painful. So like Nameless is painful for me to visit, so I don't listen to it all that often. Stalker though is one of my maybe my favorite solar system to visit because it was the first time that I didn't feel like I was aware of myself. I felt like I made something bigger than me. And I just love the world that I made. And I feel like I could write 20 more songs in that world. So,
Yeah.
stop. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I love that song. So I
Yeah.
it's just listening to well that one and Nameless just a little bit ago. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah. Soccer actually just it had a little milestone the other day. So
yeah,
uh, it was nice to be reminded that like typically when I love something, it's a good sign that that other people might like it too.
yeah,
Um, Most of the time, the stuff that I'm really excited about, that when I'm honest with myself, and it's hard to be honest with yourself because sometimes I'm excited about something, uh, and I kind of like it's like you convince yourself that you got a little 6-year-old child and you're convinced that they're the best player on their basketball team and they're really not very good at all, but you just love them
yeah,
so. Uh, Sometimes you're really honest with yourself, and if I'm honest, I think that Stalker
yeah.
is great, and so it's cool to see that other people think so too.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, so do you have a special songwriting process or any rituals that help get you in the right headspace to write?
Well, I will say I'm a little bit of I'm a I'm a very intense person generally, and I spend a massive amount of my time on building this universe, and I mean like a massive amount of time. Um, it's kind of all I like live and breathe. Uh, so I have several different um, little practices that I get into that get me into the right headspace. But the most important headspace, or the most important thing for me to to, to remind myself of, is that music is never made according to some like algorithm. So there's so many things I have to do every day that I can kind of turn into a science. Whether that's like when I already have a song, it's like coming up with uh, with I mean I do video editing and I do mixing and mastering and I come up with marketing ideas and I have to come up with like I do so many non-creative like work things. Writing songs is the one area where that just doesn't work at all. So uh, my only rule for myself is to not let anything get too stale. So once I've used up one way of like making a song, I kind of just move to another area. So for a while there, I wrote all of my songs just kind of sitting in a dark room in front of my computer, lights down, kind of. I would always start with a very simple drum loop, and I would just sort of like live in this like sort of in this rhythm for like 30 minutes and I would just come up with ideas and then I would start writing. And recently I've been trying to write away from instruments. So I've been trying to come up with a little bit of a starter sound and then I'll just go on a walk and I take a like a notebook and I just write. And that produces a different type of song. So for me, if I want to write um, in a very like a Neil Young, Bob Dylan kind of way, where I use lots of very specific imagery, and I try to be a storyteller, but I try not to be too ethereal. Then that works for me to be away from a studio and to be away from instruments.
Yeah.
Um, if I want to write in more of a metaphorical Fleetwood Mac kind of way, then it helps for me to be in the studio while I'm writing my songs. So I just try to make sure that um, I don't try to boil it down to science too much. So I don't try to rely on anything because I can rely on, you know, on my little tips and tricks for every other part of my workflow. But when it comes to writing songs, it's
Yeah.
just there's no way to turn it into a science.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um,
I don't know
yeah.
any other. So
What?
I don't know what any other
Oh,
way to do it. So it would be really nice if I
yeah.
could make it simpler on myself and have a you know, something I could count on. Um, but
Yeah.
but I can't, and that's I think the universe forcing me to not overthink uh,
Yeah.
is making me a creative that can't do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I love writing songs, so I always love hearing other people's like what they do to
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's I'm shocked at how there isn't even a small number of ways that people do it. Like you would
yeah,
think that, you know, once you get past a certain point, everyone that writes a lot of songs, they all tend to do this thing. Like, not really. There are people that write tons of really great songs and uh, they they can't sing and they can't play any instruments. Some people like to go to coffee shops and write on the back of a napkin while they like listen to people. I don't know. They like people watch, and some people like to be alone. And yeah, the variability in songwriting is wild to me.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so is there an artist or song that you consider to be the gold standard when it comes to songwriting and storytelling?
Um, there's the way I see it. There's like, oh man, there's like 10. I could boil it down to like 10 little subcategories that can make a song great. Um, and as I get better, I just hope to get better at all the parts and putting them together. So, writing really great melody and pretty good lyrics is something I focused on for a while. And recently, I think I've gotten good enough. I feel comfortable enough with writing melody that I can really just write what I think is great lyrics, like lyrics that feel honest, where it's all part of a story that has to be that way, and there's no filler lines or anything. So I was a huge John Mayer fan growing up, and I thought that he uh, was a great lyricist, but I was always very focused on the way that he turned lyrics into melody. Um, Mumford and Sons. I had a little Mumford and Sons stint where I loved their music specifically for their lyrics, like not even for the melody, just for the lyrics. Fleetwood Mac, I love what they do with their lyrics in creating. They're 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 so non-specific, and they don't have a lot of like really clever metaphors in the way that like traditional country does, where it's like, oh man, that story is just it reads like a book. Fleetwood Mac songs, at least for me, don't really do that. But they're still some of my favorite songwriting songs because they don't have to be specific. They just create a world that you fill in with specifics. Um, so I would say I try to look to um, honestly a combination. I've been looking to Neil Young a lot for like songwriting, lyric writing. John Prine is another old songwriter from I think around the same time as Neil Young, specifically for lyrics. Lizzie McAlpine writes, I think, beautiful lyrics. So a couple of those uh, artists I try to follow, and of course I have my individual songs that mean everything to me. Um, I will say recently, if I just pull a couple out of the hat, um, "Viva La Vida" by Coldplay, "Song" by Fleetwood Mac, "Wheel" by John Mayer. Um, yeah, those are a couple that I've been listening to a lot. That I would have to put in my like you know desert island
Yeah.
top three.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, so I am pop culture obsessed and go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching.
Okay.
Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
Uh, I'm a little bit in between shows right now. So I some of my favorite shows that I've gotten into the past several years, uh, like the most impactful that have kind of pointed my art that have like made me write things. Outlander, I love Outlander, and I'm actually still on the latest season, which is not on Netflix, but it's on Prime, I think. But yeah, Outlander, amazing show. I got into Game of Thrones really late, so Game of Thrones as of the past like 2 years. Um, Peaky Blinders, I love Peaky Blinders. I only got into like midway through season three. I've been doing a bad job of like really finishing shows.
Mm.
Rick, Rick and Morty's. I love Rick and Morty, and I don't care how cliche that is to like Rick and Morty. Uh, yeah, I'm in between shows. I'm trying to find. I want to really sink into a drama. I think either sci-fi or fantasy because I grew up. Um, my favorite book genres were my favorite books were all in the fantasy genre, and my favorite uh, TV shows, movies, and video games are all sci-fi. So I think I want to find a new show that's either sci-fi or fantasy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's one of my favorite shows that I just that I've been watching for like the past years. It's an older show, but it's called Grimm.
Oh,
And
Brothers
it's
Grimm.
yeah, it's a take on the Grimm fairy tales.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and it's really good. It's really creepy though. So whenever I feel like a kind of my anxiety getting high again, because I have really bad anxiety, I have to like step away from it for a little bit. Yeah,
That's I mean that sounds like a good thing though. It sounds like it's
yeah,
full enough to actually like influence your your day to day you know feelings, which is like maybe what we want out of a show, right? Like
yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
I that's what I'm looking for in a show basically is
yeah,
to get something that powerful. So I'll look up Grimm. Do you know
yeah.
where it's being?
It's on Peacock, I
On
think.
Peacock.
Yeah, it's on Peacock.
Okay. I don't think I have a Peacock subscription, but I do have an unused email address that I can use to get a free trial.
Okay. Yeah.
Trial binge it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also, I think it's also on like through Amazon Freevee. That's
Uh,
how I was watching it and then found out it was on Peacock.
okay. Okay.
So,
Cool. I'm gonna try the Peacock route,
yeah.
and I got YouTube Premium for the first, like, again, the trial Premium
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. I can never go back.
Oh,
Um, once you get used to no ads,
yeah.
can't go back.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I got YouTube Premium just a little bit ago for something
Yeah.
um for like something else and then it yeah and then I was like, well, now I don't want to go back to having to skip ads and
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if I was colorblind and someone was like, you can look at the world in like full color for 6 months and then you have to go back. I don't know if I would take that. I think I might just stay colorblind.
yeah.
I don't want to know how good it can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look,
Sorry, what did you say?
I'll give it a look.
Oh,
The
yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. It's yeah. I started watching it when because I'd been wanting to watch it for a while and then I was my mom had watched it and she was like, I think it will freak you out. So I waited for a bit. And
yeah.
then finally I was just like, you know what? I really want to watch this. So I started watching it. And there are a few episodes that I'm always like, yeah, definitely this is freaking me out. But it's so good that I just can't stop watching it.
Well, now I'm looking forward to it. So you've built up big expectations in my head for it.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to let me know what you think.
I will. Absolutely will.
Yeah. 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 So, do you have any irrational fears?
Ooh. I mean, I would say most of the time that I have a fear, it turns out to be pretty irrational. It turns out to be rooted in something pretty irrational. Like maybe if I'm afraid of spiders, I'm not afraid of spiders personally, but if I were to be really afraid of some spider, it's because I'm afraid that I'm not safe. Like I'm afraid that it'll sting me and I'll be, you know, I'll die. And that's pretty irrational because that's not very likely to happen. Uh, I don't know if I have any specific, uh, like I don't really have a fear of heights. Um, I do have a pretty extreme fear of like really uh, wide open empty spaces, like deep space, deep outer space, and being stuck like so deep in the ocean that you can't see anything around you. There's like no sea creatures. You can't see. Um, what's the top of a body of water called when you're inside of it? The
The surface.
surface. Yes, I can think of the word surface.
Yeah.
Surface, you can see the bottom of the ocean. That is probably my biggest fear. Anytime I can't play like a video game or anything where there's just wide open space. It's I guess it's like inverse claustrophobia.
Yeah.
There's an actual term for it, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, now I think I know what the yeah the term is, and now I'm blanking on it. So, yeah, now I can't remember what it's called. So,
Of course, that's what it was called.
yeah, yeah. Um, so what in your life brings you the most joy?
Oh, I would answer this very differently at different points of my life. Like within the past 5 years, I could probably have given you five wildly different answers. Um, I would say what would give me the most joy is believing, because I won't say knowing, because I don't know if I can really know this type of thing, but believing that I'm checking all of the boxes in my life at the same time. So um, there is the accomplishment goal setting box. So, when I have a song I'm really proud of, when I know the next step in my career, when I'm one step closer to being the biggest artist in the world, when that's one box. And then another box is knowing that my family and everyone I love is safe. Another box is knowing that I'm nurturing my relationships, like knowing I have a good relationship with my parents, with my girlfriend, with my brother. Um, Another one would be uh, feeling like my mental health is like I'm on top of my mental health, which is a separate thing because when I really feel like I'm on top of it, it's when I know that I will be okay regardless of if the other boxes are ticked or not. So like I know I'm doing well if I feel happy, and it doesn't matter if my career is going well or if my relationships are going well, but I'm happy anyway. So I'd say when I feel real joy is when I know that there's no big holes in my life, which is to say I'm prioritizing things well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I maybe I'll give you a different answer in 6 months, but I feel pretty
Yeah.
happy about uh, aligning myself to that goal right now. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So what do you wish people better understood about you?
I could give both. I could give like a really abstract, uh, kind of unspecific answer about my the things I love and the things that are not like material and rather vain, or I could give a rather vain answer. I'll give maybe the more interesting answer, which is the more vain one. Um, I kind of wish people knew um, how much of the music, like how much I actually do for all of this music stuff and how much I plan to do. It's not super important for me to talk about my plans because it's kind of like, why would I tell you when I can just get to work and show you? Like, I don't need to spend time talking about what my headlining Coachella set is going to look like. I should just like work on that myself and then I can show you fine. But there's a lot that goes into making albums and making songs and making an artist project and all that. And I spend a lot of time doing stuff that isn't just writing songs. So I write the songs and then I write all the instrumental parts and then I record it and then I mix it and I master it and then I direct the music videos and I design the album art and I'm pretty proud of that. But it's also a little bit braggy to talk about, and I don't want anyone to be focused on that. Like, I just kind of want the focus to be on, like, hey, I have this cool thing to show you. Um, and we have to be so braggy as creators, uh, anyways. I don't need to be more braggy and say, look at me,
Yeah.
I'm doing these other things.
Yeah.
But I do wish that people knew that I care about this stuff so much that I spend hundreds of hours on everything, every little detail uh, that you might think. Like I don't pass things off to anyone. I don't just like click a button and use any templates for anything. I make everything from scratch, and it's because I care
Yeah.
very deeply about making something that needs to exist.
Yeah.
So I vainly wish that people knew that a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's so impressive.
Well,
To,
thank you.
yeah, to be doing everything yeah, so that's incredible. So, yeah. Um, So if you had a warning label, what would yours say?
Ooh, a warning label. That does this warning label have to? I don't know anything about the person that's reading the warning label. It's
Yeah,
just okay.
yeah.
I would say, hmm. I I try very hard to be as selfless as possible and as kind as possible because I know that I am naturally. I think I'm a very. I do think I'm a good person, but I'm also very. I could be confused for being very selfish, just because there's a lot that I want to do, um, and I know that sometimes when people get close to me, they think that my sort of obsession about the things in my life is because I don't care about their things or because I think that they're not just as big, which is not the case. So I would just say, um, like, how do you put that on a warning label? That's a terrible warning label. Uh, I would say I'm just a I'm just a teddy bear on the inside. Don't
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
kind of the inverse of a warning label. It's like warning, don't be alarmed.
Yeah. 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 I think I would need one that would say like prone to anxiety, don't overload.
That as well. I've become I, it makes me very sad that you have a lot of anxiety, but also it makes me feel a little bit more connected to you because I have dealt with a lot more anxiety in the past couple of years than I ever dealt with growing up, and it's awful. Uh,
Yeah.
this is a terrible warning label because it's like a super big paragraph, and then it's like no danger, and then it says also super anxious. So I'll add that to my warning label as well.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, it's all yeah, it's no fun, but it's like it's nice when you find people kind of that can relate to that.
Well, it's um, it's impressive when people if you are anxious and I know that you're anxious because you've told me, then I know that you've already made big strides because at least my type of anxiety, it makes it real when you talk about it. And to talk about it means that you've already fought a big battle to realize that you have anxiety. Like you've already been dealing with it so much so that you've had to realize, "Hey, I have anxiety." Like
Yeah,
you don't get to that point until after you've been, you've got some scars and you've been fighting for a little while. So it's impressive to me that you would say that. It shows me that you've gone through some tough things. So knowing that someone else can go through really tough things makes me feel like I can do it too. So,
yeah.
so
Well,
thank you for like forthcoming about that. It puts me at ease.
yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That means a lot to hear.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just have one more question for you. So I love inspiring and motivational quotes. And this week, my favorite quotation is letting go is an art form. Is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
Ooh. I've actually I just started a new little like page in my notebook where I've been like noting down specific quotes and their authors. I don't have it with me right now, but I will say um, there is. there is a this might seem like kind of a stretch from someone that makes art, someone that makes music and other things. But there's a creator on the internet. His name is Dr. Mike Israetel, and I first found him through he would make these sort of intellectualized scientific um, fitness videos, and he also has like other accounts where he talks about just motivational things and just sort of broad, you know, generic topics that we all deal with as humans. And there's this one quote that applies to that is directly about like weightlifting and gym stuff, but I take it to mean something else. Which is so the quote directly is you're not just here to get reps, which is like repetitions of an exercise. You're here to tax the musculature, and reps are just the measurement. So uh, the way I've been using that quote recently is like I'm not here to just work hard every day. And I don't make music just because I'm a guy that makes music. Either I make something that needs to exist or I don't need to be making something. And furthermore, I don't just exist to make music and then step back, but I also get to like consume things. So I get to produce and I get to consume. And the overarching lesson that I take from that is if you're going to be if you're going to think really deeply about like why we're here and why you go through all the hard stuff you go through every day, why you battle through your anxiety and why you keep getting up every day, it's I've kind of learned that like I'm the master of my own seas. So uh, the more I think, the more I realize there isn't some like answer, some key to life, some overarching reason that someone will give me to wake up every day and to try to make songs and to try to do all of the other hard things that we have to do. Uh, but I get to define why I want to wake up every day. And as long as you keep trying to come up with some reason to keep going, then you're doing the best you can. So
Yes.
um, keep going. You're already okay. That's kind of what I'm channeling recently.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I
Super,
think that's a great.
very simple question.
Sorry, what?
That was a super clunky answer to you giving me a very simple question, so I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay. I can yeah, do that all the time. Someone will ask me just a simple question and I take forever to answer it because I don't know, I just keep talking. So
You start with like, "What's your favorite color?" and somehow in response, you give like the history of the Roman Empire.
yeah. 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 Um Yeah, well, it was so much fun talking with you. I so appreciate your taking the time for joining me today, and I can't wait to see all the amazing stuff you continue to do.
Thank you very much, and it was amazing to talk with you. I feel like this was a very uh, feels like it was a very healing conversation to me. Like I
Yeah.
feel invigorated. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. I feel the same way, so thank you.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Um,
I think I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna rent Dune Part Two with my girlfriend, and we're gonna Uber Eats and watch Dune. So it will be a
oh,
very good rest of the night.
that sounds so nice. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me. And that's a wrap on today's edition of the latest with Maya.